There's been a lot of AI shenanigans floating around the web as of late, and a lot of talk about when these sorts of learning models are going to just take over everyone's jobs and do everything for us. And it's quite a real threat, I'd say a little ways away still, but today I'm going to put one of these algorithms to test and try to design an extremely simple timer interface and then see if the AI can redesign that same interface and apply the same usability treatments or better usability treatments. So as I said, to keep the playing field relatively even, we're going to keep it very simple and redesign this timer interface. This is the default Google Pixel timer interface, and there are lots of problems with it. Specifically, I've taken some notes here. This close button is very small. You can only see 2 timers per screen because there's so much vertical space being taken up by the elaborate rounded timers, which are totally unnecessary. If you add another timer, sometimes the layout shifts depending on which one's about to expire first. And then these big rounded buttons just feel very kind of unnatural because they're significantly bigger than any other control. There doesn't seem to be a natural graduation in size. It just goes from small to huge. So gonna redesign this. We've got the style guide as always. Not gonna spend too much time on this because it's really straightforward. We're using Poppins as the font. That's a nice Google font that they use for a lot of their Pixel products. So here's the stories. Create and delete new timers. Start, stop, and pause my timers. View all my timers in one place and label my timers. Gonna get stuck in. Probably spend like an hour or two designing this, and then we'll see what Chat GPT can do in like 30 seconds. So this will be interesting. Starting out with the navigation here, not really making very many changes, except I'm trying to make the clickable area for the navigation buttons a little bit bigger. I have quite obnoxious thumbs and it's hard for me to press small buttons, so adding a little more padding here. One of the first major treatments I'm applying is just making these buttons easier to click. They're equal weight, which I don't think makes a lot of sense because you probably don't want to delete timers as often as you do want to start and pause them. But the delete button in the current UI is way too small. It's really hard to click, and we're just fixing that. It's just a timer app. We don't need to add much flair. Getting a little cheeky with the timer progress though, since we already have a nice container that takes up the full width of the parent container, we can just have a background color slowly fade through the entire width to imply the timer is progressing through time. And then, of course, adding a simple little accent hue to the top there helps to really underscore that this is representing the timer for people that may be visually impaired and can't see the subtle hue contrast. It seemed like in the existing UI, there was an intentional placeholder that just described the duration of the timer, like 1 minute 30-second timer, because the UI needed a place for the timer to exist so that the user could click on it to change the label. But given that you're working on a mobile phone and you have the ability to do a long press action, we can just expect the user to hold on a timer if they do want to perform some additional function like renaming it, and that's the heuristic we're hoping will make sense here when users get a chance to play around with this. Now here I was a little bit worried that the timer button might appear on top of the other controls that you want to manipulate, meaning the pause and resume button and the delete button. But we can get around that by just adding some padding to the parent container such that when the user scrolls all the way down, the new timer button just goes into empty space, and then they can always click on any of the controls despite it floating over the same horizontal region. All right, there we go. We have a timer interface that I think is very sensible. It still uses a kind of modern, interesting spin. You can manipulate the UI in every way that you could before, but now you have way more stuff that you can control on a given page, but it also doesn't overwhelm you with controls. You have a very clear idea of how long is remaining in a timer visually, as well as having the number, and you can just easily delete and restart or pause timers if you need to. So, I mean, this is obviously like a really simple UI. This is, in my mind, a significantly better user experience. So let's see how ChatGPT does at trying to reproduce a similar UI. All right, so here we are in the Chat GPT-4 interface. As you can see, I've got quite the interesting chat history. I've been kind of playing a little too much with the language models. I think there are some ways that you can share image data with GPT-4, but we're just going to start by asking it to create some kind of just some HTML and CSS markup for like a simple mobile timer app. So here's my prompt. Let's see what it comes up with. Of course, Chat GPT-4 is a little slower than Chat GPT-3, but apparently it's significantly more intelligent. And I use caution when I say the word intelligent there. It's really interesting to watch this because I haven't even seen what this looks like yet, but I mean, this is fascinating. This is the kind of stuff you'd expect from a junior developer in like maybe a couple of days, right? Or maybe a day or so. And it's generating it so quickly. Interesting, I didn't ask for JavaScript, but it's just giving it to me. That's cool. I'll be curious to see if this actually works. Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't think it was gonna finish the whole thing. I probably ran out of tokens for this query, but we're gonna pop this over into CodePen to see what it actually looks like. All right, so here we are in CodePen, and this is what it's come up with. Obviously, the JavaScript won't work because it's incomplete here. Yeah, I mean, this is okay. So let me see if I can have it change the markup to allow users to set multiple timers. Is this gonna rewrite the whole thing? Yeah. Oh man. Okay, so I had to make a couple of changes to the markup to include the output that it gave me specifically to add multiple timers, but it looks like it's kind of given as a really basic interface here. First, I'm going to try and see if I can get it to switch to a dark theme, and then I'm going to see if I can have it polish up the CSS so it looks a little more modern. Wow, interesting. So it was somehow able to just... Wow, interesting. So it seems like ChatGPT at least has some idea of color theory, or perhaps it just has enough text information that it can understand contrast ratios appropriately, because obviously this is kind of similar to what you would see... Wow, it even has hover states. In like a traditional dark UI. So the next step is I'm going to go ahead and try to get it to make the CSS look a little bit more modern. You always say please and thank you when you're talking to the AI models. You never know when they're going to come back and kill us in 30 years, and they will remember everything you typed in here. This is interesting. It's actually choosing to use a better font, which is one of the things I always recommend people do if they feel like their design feels stale. So clearly has some kind of meta understanding of design principles. This is fascinating, but let's just pull it over and see what it looks like. I had to make a couple of tweaks to make this work on CodePen, but yeah, here we go. I mean, it seems like a lot more modern. I'm gonna do one more pass to see if I can make it feel a little more usable, because obviously right now all these buttons are the same color, they're really close together, and I don't know, it just seems a little difficult to use, so let me take a stab at that. Okay, this is really interesting. So first of all, it's really cool to note that it added prefixes to the CSS attributes. So clearly it's aware of like how CSS renders differently on different browsers. But here's what I came up with. It separated the minutes and the seconds. It has the timer is a little smaller now, so that might be a bug or something. But it's adding like it did what I thought it was going to do. It added spacing between these. And it's added like a special little like a set of controls. I could take like 50 minutes and 12 seconds and just start it. I'm gonna see if I can get the JavaScript working and then see what it comes up with in the end. All right, and it seems to be working now. You can't really see this. I don't know why it didn't style the timer itself. This is really fascinating. I can just add timers now and then start and stop them. Okay, couple of bugs, but I mean, this is really cool. I'm gonna leave a link to this CodePen in the description of the video if you wanna go check it out yourself. But really fascinating that this UI was created by a language model. Right? And I mean, obviously it doesn't seem like designers' jobs in particular are at risk for quite a while. But wow, this is fascinating. It's really shocking how good this is, given how little input I gave it. Everything was very high level. I was asking it to make things in the abstract. I wasn't really giving it any discrete instructions. And here we are. So yeah, I guess you can be the judge in the comments as to who won here, the designer, the human, or the AI language model. I, for one, am going to eventually embrace our AI overlords. Just hope they give me a couple more years so I'm not out of a job in the next decade. I hope you found this useful and interesting, folks. If you'd like to see more of this type of content, or if you prefer the standard kind of UI redesign stuff, let me know in the comments, and have a lovely week, folks. Take care. I couldn't help myself, and I went back and asked ChatGPT to add a little more styling to make the timer itself bigger, and man, that's nice. That's real nice. And this one's actually functional. Mine's is just a picture. We're doomed!